Hello, Raider Nation. Welcome to another edition of the Believe in Raiders podcast. I'm Dennis Ackerman, pleased to be joined by former Raider great Stanford Route, and also mentioned on the coaching staff at Valpo. Stan, what's your exact title there?
Corners coach.
All right. How is it going there so far?
Going pretty good, man. Like I said, we got about 2 more weeks before we play UNI on August 31st. Hopefully camp will end somewhat soon in about a week because it's definitely some long days, but man, I'm having a blast. I love it.
Stan, is camp a grind? Is it like when you were playing? Is it a grind for both coaches and players?
Yes, it's actually more of a grind for coaches than it is players, because I remember as a player, we'd have practice. Then we go to lunch, take a little 2-3 hour nap in between our next meeting, walk through, what have you. Well, as a coach, you got that practice. Then you got to go break down the film. So it's definitely more of a grind from a mental standpoint, obviously,
right,
more so than physical. It's definitely more of a grind for coaches than it is players. At least as players, you leave the meeting and let's say 8:30, finish up with defensive meetings. Well, the coaches still have a staff meeting, things like that. They got to prepare their lesson plan for tomorrow. So definitely is much of a grind or greater for coaches than it is for players from the mental aspect, obviously not the physical.
All right, well, let's talk some Raiders now. And Stan, Antonio Pierce says he wants to name a starting quarterback following the preseason game against the Dallas Cowboys on Saturday. Okay,
I agree with it.
Okay, all right. Well, hold on there. I just want to look back at the numbers against Minnesota. Just to remind Raider Nation, Aidan O'Connell, one drive only. But Dan, I thought he was very effective. 7 for 9, 76 yards. Now I know he took a sack on third and goal, forcing the Raiders to settle for a field goal. On the flip side, Gardner Minshew in 4 drives, 6 for 12, 117 yards and a touchdown pass. Now, he did have a couple of nice throws to Trey Tucker. He also scrambled for a first down. Overall, the Raiders scored 17 points in his 3 drives. We could say 4 drives, but the other one just ended the half. So, Stan, you said you liked the decision by Antonio Pierce, but as of right now, where do you see the competition?
Oh, I think it's still going to be a toss-up. I don't think you're going to see anybody that's going to win this battle by a knockout. I think it's going to be more by judge's decision, TKO, things like that. So whatever you're going to decide, I agree with Antonio Pierce, because it's only 3 preseason games. So he's going to make it after the Dallas Cowboys game, the second preseason game. That way we now go into the third and final week where the starters probably won't play. And now it's all about the focus for week 1 against the Los Angeles Chargers. And you don't want that looming over your team. You want to be able to go into the final week of the preseason. Okay, this is my starter. He won't be playing. This is going to be the backup. He will be playing. You want to have everything definitive. You want to have everything clear. You don't want to have any of the ambiguity, things like that. So I definitely understand why Antonio Pierce is doing that. Now, is that going to be something that's going to be glaringly obvious as far as who's going to be the starter or who's going to win the job? I'm not sure. I think it's going to be more of a TKO coming down to a judge's decision.
All right. Well, I want to get to more on the quarterback situation, but right now I got to get the promo read in here. And BetOnline is always your sports information headquarters this season, as we have you covered for all your sports wagering needs. Basketball, MLB, NHL, hockey, right to UFC and boxing. BetOnline is the fastest and easiest way to get your betting info, including live betting options and your favorite casino and card games. You can play right from your very own home. Head to the website today or use your mobile device to get in on the action. Be sure to use our promo code BLEAV to receive your 50% welcome bonus on your first deposit. BetOnline, where the game begins. See, I don't want to go back to 2007 when you were playing for the Raiders. They selected Jamarcus Russell with the number 1 overall pick. He decided he was going to hold out. So that left a starting competition between Josh McCown and Dante Culpepper. McCown eventually won the starting job, I think much to a surprise of a lot of people. Lane Kiffin went with him over the experienced Dante Culpepper. Now, Culpepper did get in a lot of playing time during the season.
Mm-hmm.
Stan, McCown was definitely a controversial choice when it came to the fan base. I know the fan base, along with me, thought it should have been Culpepper. And maybe this is a stretch, but let me ask you this. Can a quarterback competition divide a locker room the way it divides a fan base?
Yes, it definitely can, because you'll have a certain demographic of players that they want guy A. The other demographic, they want guy B. And it will definitely become something that is talked about, conversations in the locker room, things like that. So it definitely can divide a locker room. I would not say it will ruin a locker room, but it definitely can divide it to a certain degree, especially when it's a murky type of situation. Nobody's solidified themselves. So now it's just all based on opinion. And we all know everybody's got one.
So let me ask you this. When you're playing for the Raiders, you got the rookie number 1 pick who's holding out. Then you got Culpepper and McCown battling for the position. What was it like inside that Raider locker room? How much were you guys discussing not only Jamarcus holding out, but the quarterback competition going on as well? What do you remember?
We didn't really have a lot of conversations about it, but obviously with us in the secondary playing so much man coverage, it is what it is. We're going to be playing a lot of man, whether whoever's starting. So we know what the defensive game plan is. Okay. We just got to go out there, stop our receiver, stop the run, try to hold them to 17 points or less and things like that. Because at the time, Dante Culpepper, Josh McCown, with them both getting to the Raiders, I think that year.
I think you're right.
There really wasn't much like there wasn't much of a connection that the prior team had with either of the guys, because they just got there. Right. So it's really just kind of like well, you know what? I prefer Coke. I prefer Pepsi type of situation versus somebody already being there, developing those connections, friendships, relationships with already guys on the team. So it really wasn't much of a controversy. Obviously, with J-Rock, he was holding out. Obviously, you know, that's how it goes for top draft picks. So we knew that, but I wouldn't say it was anything that divided the locker room.
Okay.
We had plenty of other issues that probably would have divided us, but quarterback controversy wasn't one of them, because at the time we weren't winning. I think we went 4-12 back in 2007, something like that. So it was not one of those situations where somebody was going to definitively make us better, put us in the playoff hunt, things like that. That's why it wasn't a big topic in the locker room.
You're right, Stan, because I think in 2006, Aaron Brooks and was it Andrew Walter?
Yeah, Andrew Walter.
With the 2 starting quarterbacks. So I think you're right with McCown and Culpepper. I think they both came in 2007. Yeah. So, okay, that would make sense. And if you didn't have really a relationship with either one prior to them joining the Silver and Black. Stan, I want to go back to head coach Antonio Pierce on a couple of things. The first one's, and you talked about this a little bit. He said his starters are going to play on Saturday. Yep. Devontae Adams, who just came back, and by the way, congratulations, Devontae Adams. Baby boy, his 3rd kid. Congratulations to him and the family.
Congrats to him.
Yeah, Devontae said he'd like to rest. So is this a case where Antonio's putting his imprint on the team, or should he be talking to his veterans, or how do you see this playing out from each perspective? You were a player and now you're a coach. So you got perspective on both sides, my man.
I think times like this is where Antonio Pierce has to decide exactly what type of coach does he want to be. Devontae Adams, one of the best receivers in the league. We all know that. And if your star player says he wants to rest, it would behoove you to appease him. But who won the Super Bowl last year? The Chiefs.
They did.
Andy Reid is known for, he going to play his guys in the preseason. He's not going to play you for a long time. But, hey, go in there. Go in there, get your feet wet, get your pads flapping a little bit. Go in there, let somebody go ahead and hit you one good time. That way you can go ahead and still build up that callus around your body, because this is the game of football. And the only way to truly, truly hit the ground running in week 1 is to be in football shape. And obviously there's plenty of times where it's more than just conditioning of doing wind sprints, making sure that you have your endurance up. You got to have your body that's ready to take that hit. You're going to be taking hits from Derwin James week 1 against the Los Angeles Chargers. So it really just depends on what type of coach does Antonio Pierce want to be. Does he want to be that disciplinarian that's almost like a Tom Coughlin, who one of the guys that he's reached out to for input as far as how he should go about leading this team? Obviously, they won that Super Bowl together back in 2007. Or does he want to be a player's coach? That's something that's totally up to him, his prerogative. But if your player, one of your star players says that, you should go ahead and take heed to it. Listen to him, hear him out. But at the same time, do you want to run the team the way you see fit? Like a Kansas City Chiefs led Andy Reid, because they are now 2-time Super Bowl champions, looking for a third one. And I think that when Sean McVay came out, said he didn't want to play his starters in the preseason several years ago, it started a new wave. And I think that now that's kind of like the trend that you're starting to see. But at the same time, I think that you do need to get some work in the preseason, just because you got to get that timing down. And you're going to be playing with Aidan O'Connell or Gardner Minshew. Who knows? You want to get that timing down. So I don't know what AP is going to do, but I know that it's going to be incumbent upon him to decide what type of coach does he want to be, players coach or disciplinarian. But he's definitely not going to be able to teeter on the middle.
Stan, let me ask you this. If the Raiders quarterback situation is settled, is Devontae Adams and a lot of the starters playing, do you think, on Saturday against the Dallas Cowboys? Offensively, let me clear that. Offensively.
If it's settled, I want to see my guys out there with the real bullets flying. I want to see them out there against the real defense, not just in practice going against their own defense, or they're scrimmaging against another team before they play them in the preseason game. I want to see them out there just to get the timing down. I think that's the best thing for them, just because if they go out there and let's say they don't play in the preseason, they decide who the starter is after the Cowboys game. And you definitely know you're not playing Max Crosby and Devontae Adams in the third preseason game. So that means they're going to get their first reps with starting quarterback and starting receiver leading up to the Los Angeles Chargers. And it'll be in the Los Angeles Chargers game in the first quarter where they get their actual real action with knowing he's going to be the guy throwing me the ball. Let me go ahead and prepare for, he throws a tighter spiral than the backup. Or he likes me to break my route off at 12 yards instead of 13 for whatever reason. So it's much different when you're working with a guy that is going to be the guy versus somebody who could be. I think that they definitely need to go ahead and get some work in the preseason, just because I'm not with that. Oh, well, we'll get it right around week 1. And then, week 3 or 4, we'll really go and hit the ground running. I think if you're the Kansas City Chiefs, maybe you can do that. I think that if you are a team that went deep in the playoffs last year, you can do that. But I think that for the Raiders, for where they were last year, for where they finished the season, yes, obviously 5-4 with Antonio Pierce, but you do not have a solidified top-notch guy. Even when you decide who your starter is going to be, he's not going to be one of the top 10 quarterbacks in the NFL. You're going to have to get that timing down. The only way you can do that is when the real bullets are flying. All right,
Stan, I want to stay with AP. And as a former player, once again, you 8 years in the NFL, and now you're a coach. Earlier in the week, AP, he said some guys put on the pads and they got it done on Saturday. And he said that's all fine and dandy. But you know what? When he said when it comes to pro football, it's all about doing it during the week. That includes meeting rooms, walkthroughs, and practice. That's where you build the trust of the coaches and your fellow teammates and accountability. So how much can you relate to that, not only as a coach right now at Valpo, but during your playing days as well?
Yeah, man. During the week, I remember Richard Seymour used to always say that essentially in the NFL, you're paid to practice. The games are easy. Like, who doesn't want to play in the games? Like, everybody wants to play in the games. You're really being paid to practice, because that's the thing that you don't really want to do. You obviously want to play in the games. You don't want those long, grueling practices. Then you got meetings after, things like that, treatment. So I definitely understand that. You want to make sure that that's where you build your craft. That's where you can master your craft. That's where you build the foundation of your technique and things like that. So I definitely understand what AP is about. His mindset, he comes from that Tom Coughlin type of tree. And when you look at AP, I think he was undrafted
I think you're right.
coming out of college. So he believes in that hard hat, lunch pail type of mindset. So yeah, so I definitely understand it. And in many ways, you look at the best players in the league, an overwhelming majority of them work really, really, really hard. You look at the way they practice, the way they prepare, you can see why they play great on Sunday. So I'm definitely right there with AP. I understand that's how you build the trust of your teammates, no doubt about it.
Stan, as a coach right now, can you see the players, okay, he's going to be my leader on defense. This guy's probably going to be solid, but not great. And this guys are like, what are we doing?
It don't really take you long to see it. Absolutely. No doubt about it.
All right. I want to go back to the offense now. And Stan, I actually want to go back to 2007 as well. There's a company called True Media, and they began tracking teams' offensive formations. And the Raiders, it seems like they're going to run a lot of 12 personnel, the one running back, the two tight ends, especially after they drafted Brock Bowers. Stan, only 5 teams, believe it or not, have used the 12 formation at least 50% of the time since 2007. That was the 2021 Miami Dolphins.
Oh, yeah. I definitely believe that.
Let me ask you this.
That's not surprising.
With the Raiders hoping to do this and kind of dictate the tempo and everything offensively, keep the defense guessing, as a former defensive player and as a DB coach right now, how do you attack or how do you stop the 12 formation?
Well, for one, you got to be able to run big nickel, because to be successful in the 12 personnel, you got to have 2 tight ends that are pretty good pass catchers. You look at the New England Patriots with a Rob Gronkowski, obviously, and Aaron Hernandez. There's been a couple other teams that have had that double tight end type of combo, but it's definitely a run formation. So you got to be able to stop the run out of it, and you got to be able to have safeties or linebackers or maybe a nickel back that can match up with those tight ends when they go ahead and go out for passes. So it forces you to pretty much stay in base defense. You're not able to run nickel as much unless it's more of a bigger body. Some people call it big nickel, things like that. So it definitely keeps the defense from really being able to get multiple, get exotic, really come with the different types of blitzes and things like that. It forced the defense to play vanilla.
Okay. So, but Stan, let me ask you, you look at Brock Bowers, he had a couple grabs in the preseason game against Minnesota. Obviously, you've got Devontae Adams, Jacoby Myers. I mean, Michael Mayer, who was their second-round pick last year, the tight end out of Notre Dame. I mean, that seems like a lot of talent. It almost seems like, though, the tight ends are almost interchangeable as wide receivers. Is that a stretch, or is that pretty accurate? And you can run, even though you're in a 12 formation, it's like the tight ends are almost wide receivers who can block.
You're talking about with the Raiders? Or you talking about just football in general?
With the Raiders.
Yeah, it definitely does, because I remember even back a guy that got to the Raiders in 2008, Marcel Reese.
Yes.
And Marcel Reese was really a tight end, but he had more of like a fullback type of body. So he played the fullback position, but he was essentially an H-back or a tight end. And yeah, absolutely. In today's game, that's really what you're looking for, like a Brock Bauer. And look at everything he did at Georgia. Right. 2-time Mackey Award winner, somebody that obviously plays tight end, but he moves like a receiver. He moves like an H-back. So somebody that can create mismatches, because in the NBA, in basketball in general, it's getting to where now the game is positionless.
Right.
And within the NFL, you have running backs that catch the ball at the backfield, like a Christian McCaffrey. You have guys that are like Tavon Austin years ago. You'll have guys that Deebo Samuel for the 49ers right now. You can line him up in the backfield. You can hand it to him on a jet sweep. He can also run pass routes, things like that. So you're looking for those guys that they're really an X factor. They're not a receiver. They're not a running back. They're not a tight end. They're an X factor. And whenever you can find that, it's something that can be very, very special for your offense, because it can make you very deadly. And I think that what you're saying, what you're alluding to, with a Michael Mayer, with a Brock Bauer, especially a Brock Bauer, I think that, it almost kind of makes them interchangeable and almost kind of like they're hybrids.
Stan, you mentioned hybrid. I almost feel like that's what a running back is now, because, the benchmark used to be 1,000 yards rushing. Yeah. Now I feel like it's, okay, you get 700, maybe 800 yards rushing, but I also need 50 catches out of you. I need you to be an all-around playmaker, right?
Yeah, that's really what it is. And that's why Christian McCaffrey is the best running back in football, because he's that dual threat, somebody that can catch the ball out the backfield, somebody that can also go ahead and run it up the middle. When you think of that, you think of a Marshall Faulk.
Oh, good.
You think of maybe like a Warwick Dunn.
Yep.
And that's really what now the NFL is going to, is playmakers, because the game is now wide open. It's all about the pass. You don't see 21 personnel much anymore. You don't see 12 personnel anymore, because those are run formations. Now it's all about the pass, and you need that running back to be able to add to the passing game element, not just somebody that he can only affect the game whenever he's got the ball in his hands running down in between the tackles.
Stan, who's the best running back you went up against during your time with the Raiders?
Ooh. Okay, they're both from Texas.
Oh, big shock.
No. No, but when I tell you these names, you're going to see what I mean.
Okay.
I would say, because I don't want to disrespect either one of them.
No.
I would just give it a tie. LaDainian Tomlinson.
Okay, that's no doubt.
Adrian Peterson.
Okay.
Who's a third one?
Well, those are pretty two good ones right there.
Yeah,
my man.
I'm trying to think of who like a third one was. Michael Turner was as hard to tackle as this table that I'm sitting right in front of. And he was LaDainian Tomlinson's backup for a number of years with the Chargers.
LT's a good one, though. LT's a good one.
Yeah, I would say LT and AP.
Okay.
Those would be my top two. Arian Foster. He was another really good one. Arian Foster was another really good one. No, it's Texans.
Oh, okay. I beg your pardon.
Yeah.
Right. With Barry Foster, maybe for this.
Yeah, you're thinking of Barry Foster like in the 90s.
Thank you. Sorry about that.
DA, I'm not that old. I'm not that
old. My bad.
but yeah, I'd say Arian Foster, Adrian Peterson, LaDainian Tomlinson. Those are all three very good running backs. Obviously, Hall of Fame worthy. We all know that LT's already in the Hall of Fame.
Yep.
And a fourth one would be Clinton Portis.
Oh, okay.
He was another good one. Denver Broncos, obviously, everybody knows who that is.
Yep.
So I would say AP, LT, then Arian Foster, Clinton Portis.
Oh, very good choices, my man. Very good choices. Just one more housekeeping note. I mentioned Devontae Adams earlier. He returned to camp after the birth of his son. Colton Miller is supposed to hopefully join the team next year. Remember last year he battled a shoulder injury, had surgery in the offseason. And good news for Raider Nation and their rookie offensive lineman, Jackson Powers-Johnson. He is returning to the team on Wednesday. All right, Raider Nation, that's going to do it for another edition of the Believe in Raiders podcast presented by betonline.ag. For my partner, Stanford Rob, I'm Dennis Ackerman. Thanks so much for listening, and may all your punts find the coffin corner.